Hello, fellow movie crusaders, and welcome to another episode of Sean's Movie Crusades. My name's Sean Wasserkrug, and today's episode we are going to go over the most anticipated films of 2020. Now, last year I did the most anticipated of 2019, and what I basically did there was I kind of just went through the months of the year and what came out in January, February, March, April. So it wasn't really a most anticipated list. It was just kind of just going over what was coming out. This year we're going to do a little bit differently. I'm going to give you my 20 most anticipated films of 2020. Now, when it comes to the most anticipated, it's especially at this time of the year. It's kind of a hard list to make for the most part because there's so much we don't know what's coming out yet. Like last year when I made the list, we did not know about Us. We did not know about a lot of films that were coming out. I remember I made that list for most anticipated 2019, and literally 3 days after I put it on YouTube, the Us trailer came out, and I was like, I would have put that on my list. But yeah, so with 2020, it's kind of hard because either we know either just a title and we've never seen a trailer, we don't know cast, or we have trailers for certain films, or we just have a synopsis of a movie, and that's all we've got. And it's very hard to kind of go off of that. So this list, maybe it's not my complete most anticipated because there are films that I would love to put on this list, but I don't know either anything about it. All I know is who's in it. Or B, it's a synopsis that maybe isn't quite as clear, but once we actually see a trailer, it'll go through. So this is most anticipated movies as of right now. So you're going to see a lot of films that are sequels or films that we've seen trailers for, and maybe not films that are going like, oh, this looks great. There's some of those movies on this list, but when I was making this list, there was a lot of films. I had like 40 films written out, and they're like either I'm gonna see this movie, but I just didn't care enough about it to put it on the list, or I just don't know enough about this movie yet to put it on the list overall. So this list of 20 are stuff that I literally have about a good idea of what I've seen so far, either from a trailer or from what the cast is and the plot itself. So let's go ahead and jump into the list with number 20. Number 20 is a trailer I saw, oh God, it was like around fall. I almost forgot about this movie, but then I saw it coming in and coming out here soon, and I got excited again because I remember how cool this trailer was, and that is Vin Diesel's Bloodshot. The trailer is pretty awesome. If you guys have not seen the trailer, go ahead and check it out. Like I said, Vin Diesel, all he's really done lately is just like Fast and the Furious films, and of course Groot. So to kind of get him back and kind of doing a bloody action film, especially I think this is a comic book movie as well, definitely kind of makes me excited to see this. Now, could this movie be bad? Absolutely. But just from the trailer alone, it left me pretty excited. I love the concept of it. It's a guy, I believe his wife gets murdered, and he's going on a vendetta to try and find the people who murdered her. And he has the ability to basically regenerate when he's getting hurt. There's a great shot in the trailer of him getting literally shot in the face and then keeps walking. But it visually, it looks great. It looks gory. It looks like it's gonna be a lot of fun, and that's why I have it at number 20 on the list. Going to number 19, we have Pixar's Onward. Now, trailer-wise, it hasn't really blown me away yet. The first trailer definitely did. The second trailer, we at least got more of a story plot of what we were looking at, which definitely was a better idea of what we're looking at. Like I said, it's got Chris Pratt, Tom Holland. I love both those guys. So that, along with the Pixar name, I feel like this movie's gonna be a great film. It's just not doing the right terms in terms of marketing yet. You got present day, but it's got like medieval trolls and stuff, but working through present day stuff. So it's a nice, unique twist on the idea. We got the two brothers played by Chris Pratt and Tom Holland. And on Tom Holland's 16th birthday, I know I'm not saying their character names, but I don't have them pulled up in front of me because I'm trying to go through all 20 of these movies at the same time. But on Tom Holland's 16th birthday, he gets a present from their deceased father, which is a spell that can allow them to see their father for up to 24 hours. So it's an adventure of they only get about half of his body So Chris Pratt and Tom Holland have to go on an adventure to try to find the magic to be able to see their father fully formed. Like I said, it looks like it could be a lot of fun. The trailers haven't really blown me away yet, but like I said, it's Pixar. You got these two guys leading the voices, and that's why I think it's on my most anticipated list. Going to 18, the first trailer of this was horrendous. It definitely did not look good. The fans were incredibly upset. The fans let their voices be heard. And for once, the studios listened. Yes, I am talking about Sonic the Hedgehog. When they actually legitimately went back and refixed Sonic, first off, kudos for them doing that. But number two, it felt like that's the thing, is like you watch the first trailer and you watch the second trailer, they're relatively close to the same trailer, but changing Sonic from what he looked like in the first half to what he looks like now, to me, just makes the movie immensely better. And I went from like, oh my God, this movie's going to be a train wreck to, wow, I actually really want to see this movie now. Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik, I think, is perfect casting. The only other person I probably would think of that I think could be a great Robotnik would probably be Paul Giamatti. But I love that we got Jim Carrey back in, kind of just doing his quirky comedy act, because I mean, we haven't really seen him do it in a while outside of Kidding, but that's more of a dramatic comedy role. James Marsden, you know, take him or leave him. You plug him in something, he's going to give you at least an effort. But I said once they fixed Sonic's look, this movie became immensely more exciting and more entertaining for me. I'm really excited to see what they end up doing with this product. Could it still be a failure compared to the first trailer? Absolutely. But as of right now, because the studio went out of their way to go and give us the Sonic that we wanted, it's definitely right up there in my most anticipated for 2020. Going to number 17, I had my issues with the first film, but it was still a solid attempt. So going for the sequel, I am choosing for number 17, Halloween Kills. Like I said, the first Halloween film that came out last year, there was a lot to like and there was a lot to dislike. Mainly to me, I thought it was just kind of lazy writing, lazy directing. But for the most part, I enjoyed the film for what it was, and I was excited to see what they were going to do with the next film. Now that we know this is going to be a trilogy, and they're currently, I think, shooting the third one as of right now, as well as with the second one, I'm just really interested in seeing what Carpenter and Jamie Lee Curtis is working on to try and complete this final set of the trilogy, and this being the middle film. Yeah, like that's basically it. Like I said, I'm interested in seeing what they're gonna do with this one, and that's why it's on my most anticipated list. Going to number 16, I'm a fan of this franchise. I'm not a fan of the spin-off multiverse that it created, but I do like the first two films, and that is Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. I love The Conjuring. It was one of my favorite films of the year when it came out. Conjuring 2 was good, not as good as the first one. Like I said, it spawned off like Annabelle, The Nun. Technically, La La Rosa is a Conjuring first film, but not really. I really like the last Annabelle. Annabelle Comes Home, because to me it felt like Conjuring 2.5. So we're getting Conjuring 3. Obviously, Vera Farmiga, Patrick Wilson, they're coming back. I hope I hope they get I'm blanking on her name, their daughter. I hope she has a bigger part in it, because I loved her in Annabelle Comes Home. But yeah, I love the Conjuring movies. I think they do a great job of staging great scares. And I cannot wait to see what the third one is, because I think this might very well be the last Conjuring film we get, and I can't wait to see how it turns out. Number 15 on the list is in a lot of people's top 5, if not most anticipated film of the year, but because there's just been no trailer yet, and all we got is a director and cast, that's why it's going to be 15 on the list for me, but it is very anticipated, and that is Denis Villeneuve's Dune. I never saw the original Dune. I've heard one or two things. It's incredibly dull and boring, or it's incredible. I'm just going to decide not to watch the original and just go into this one with fresh eyes. But the cast for this movie looks fantastic. Denis Villeneuve is a phenomenal director. Say what you want about Blade Runner 49. It was one of the most gorgeous films I'd ever seen. Prisoners. I loved Prisoners. I thought that was a phenomenal film. And I can't wait to see what he does with Dune and the cast that he has with him, and that's why it's on the list. Coming in at number 14, never would I thought that this film would be on a most anticipated list for me, because I've never been a fan of the movies of these, but I saw this trailer and I kind of fell in love with it, and every time I see the trailer, I like it more and more, and coming in at number 14 is Scoob. I never thought I'd have a Scooby-Doo movie on my list, but the way they frame the trailer as it's kind of like the kind of the story of how Shaggy and Scooby met, and then it looks like we also have a present-day storyline as well. It looks like a lot of fun. The animation, I think, looks really great. I do think Scooby talks a little too much in the trailer, so maybe they'll pull back on that in the movie, or he'll talk full on. But from what I've seen so far with this film, at least in its trailers, I'm actually pretty excited for it, and I cannot wait to see it, and that's why it's on the list. Coming in at number 13, we saw a teaser trailer of it. We have not gotten a story trailer for it yet, but just based off of the lead actor in this film and because of who's making it, I definitely is on my most anticipated list, and that is Pixar's Soul. With Jamie Foxx leading the voice casting, I am actually really, really excited on checking this one out. I get kind of an Inside Out kind of vibe with this. Inside Out and Coco kind of vibe with it, because it's about your soul, what how you want to leave your mark on the world. I feel like that's where Pixar's bread and butter is when it comes to making a beautiful story, is about your lineage and your legacy. And just from what little we've seen of it, I like the musical elements of it as well, and I think that this movie is going to be one of the year's best, but we just need to see more out of it, and that's why it's at number 13. Number 12 is Marvel's The Eternals. It's literally 12 because I know nothing about this movie. I didn't look up the comic books. I'm trying to stay away from that because, like, with Guardians of the Galaxy, we didn't know anything about Guardians of the Galaxy. It looked like it was going to be a fail. You know, you got a talking tree, you got a talking raccoon. But ended up being one of my favorite MCU movies of all time. And with Eternals, the cast looks great. Kumail Nanjiani, he released a photo here like a week or two ago of him in serious shape for this role. And like the rest of the cast is great as well. And I just kind of want to go into this with fresh eyes and not knowing what the Eternals are. And that's why it's number 12 on the list. I can't wait to see what this movie's going to be, because it's the first new MCU movie, not counting Captain Marvel, where it's something unique and something that we weren't expecting to see since probably Guardians of the Galaxy or Ant-Man. Coming in at number 11, I love this franchise. They are, to me, two of the best action buddy cop comedies in all time. And I think it's one of the things that Michael Bay does best, and that is Bad Boys for Life. I love Bad Boys. I love Bad Boys 2 even more because I think, and this is not necessarily a hot take, but I think if Bad Boys 2 was never made, Fast and the Furious would not be what it is today. I feel like Bad Boys 2 is what made Fast and the Furious Fast and the Furious. They completely just go batshit crazy with the action. They don't care about the plot in a sense, but they just go out there and they're having fun. Will Smith, Martin Lawrence have a blast when they do these films. We finally get them back in these films. Martin Lawrence doesn't necessarily look that great, but I trust that these two would not come together for a film unless the script was at least solid. And I cannot wait to see these two on screen again. And it comes out in like 2 weeks, so I don't have to wait too long. But yeah, Bad Boys for Life, definitely in my most anticipated list, and I cannot wait to see the two bad boys back on the screen again. Going into the top 10 for most anticipated of 2020, number 10 should be higher, would be higher if it wasn't for that trailer that came out, and that is Ghostbusters Afterlife. I love Ghostbusters. It's one of my favorite comedies of all time. Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, and Ernie Hudson. I think they are a fantastic group. Ghostbusters 2, I think, was solid. I have the cartoon series on DVD. I love Ghostbusters. The female version in 2016, I think once you get past the first 30 minutes, I think is actually pretty decent. First 30 minutes is just god-awful. But so I was excited when I heard that this movie was coming out because it was a new venture for the Ghostbusters, and the original cast outside of Harold Ramis, rest in peace, were going to be coming back for it. And then they released the first trailer. And it felt very Stranger Things meets Ghostbusters, which is exactly what I did not want with this movie. I could go on a whole long diatribe about what I wanted this movie to be, but maybe I'll save that for when the review comes out if I didn't like the film. But as of right now, it's not where I want the trailer to be. Now, like I said, this was just a teaser trailer. They could come out with another trailer and completely win me over, and that's why I have it still in my top 10. But as of right now, just first thoughts on the initial trailer that we got, I'm not very positive, even though it's got a great cast. You got Finn Wolfhard, Carrie Coons. I am blanking on this poor girl's name. I'm going to look it up real quick because it's bugging me, because it's the daughter from The Conjuring. And, yeah, it's really bugging me that I don't know it. You also got Paul Rudd in the movie. McKenna Grace. I apologize. McKenna Grace, she's fantastic. And like I said, she's in The Conjuring. I hope she's in Conjuring 3 as well. Like I said, great cast in this. And then you got the original 3 as well. So I'm excited, but I'm very timid about it at the same time. Going to number 9 is Wonder Woman 1984. Wonder Woman, I thought, was a great film, yet overrated at the same time. I have my issues with Wonder Woman. If you ever want to know what my issue is, feel free to ask me. I will tell you, because I am not shy to let you know what the one problem is with Wonder Woman outside of the third act. Wonder Woman 1984, we still don't 100% fully get the story yet. Why is Steve Trevor back from the dead? What's going on with Pedro Pascal's character? There's a lot going on in that first trailer with unanswered questions, but it's Wonder Woman. We got Gal Gadot. We got pretty much everyone back for this movie that would be coming back. My only big worry is obviously Kristen Wiig as Cheetah. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of her, but who knows? This could be the film that turns that around. The 80s style, we are kind of beating the 1980s into the ground with nostalgia, so we'll see where that goes. But yeah, it's Wonder Woman. I'm expecting it to be really good, and that is why it's in my top 10. Going to number 8 is No Time to Die. It is the final Daniel Craig James Bond film. I'm not a huge James Bond fan, but Daniel Craig's Bond is the one Bond that I feel like I've really kind of attached myself to. I love Casino Royale. I love Skyfall. Quantum of Solace and Spectre, not so much. So going into this final one, I'm really, really hoping that Daniel Craig goes out on a high note. I like that we got Christoph Waltz back. While Spectre wasn't that great, I did like him in the film. And then we got Rami Malek playing the villain in this one. I really, really hope Daniel Craig gives us one last great James Bond performance before we get a new Bond. And that is why it is on the list. Going to number 7 is Marvel's Black Widow. I love the trailer. Don't quite know exactly where they're going with this based on the effects of Endgame, but we got Scarlett Johansson. She's getting her own movie. Scarlett Johansson's had a fantastic 2019 with Endgame, Marriage Story, and Jojo Rabbit. So her getting her own Black Widow movie, I think, is rightfully deserved, even if it is 5 years too late. But main things, too, you got Rachel Weisz, who I love. You got David Harbour, who I love. And you got Florence Pugh, who to me has been the biggest and brightest new star of 2019. So you got a great cast going into this. That first trailer I thought was fun, exciting, and I cannot wait to see Black Widow when it comes out in May. Coming in at number 6, it should be higher, but that first trailer was real intriguing. I still don't really know enough about the film. That's why I have it at number 6. That is Christopher Nolan's Tenet. I love John David Washington. I watched him on Ballers. I thought he was incredible in BlacKkKlansman. Nolan to me has kind of fallen off since Inception. And I feel like this is the closest movie that we're going to get to something that was like Inception. I like Dark Knight Rises, but we could tell that there were some problems with the script. I don't think Interstellar was that great, and I think Dunkirk is incredibly overrated. So when I watched this trailer, this is the first time that I felt like Nolan was getting back into that Inception kind of mindset. Like I said, it looked cool, and I cannot wait to see it, and I hope that it gets Nolan back on the right track. Like I said, I know there's those Nolan diehard fans who think everything he makes is great. But to me, like I said, his last 3 films weren't as solid as a lot of people are making it out to be. So I'm hoping this puts him right back in the win column as being a phenomenal director. Number 5 could be number 1 if we would have had a trailer for it, but we don't have a trailer for it yet. So I'm literally going off of cast and plot summary, and that is Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho. Literally just the description of it already has me sold. It's a psychological horror based in the 1960s, and it's got Thomasin McKenzie from Jojo Rabbit, who was, like I said, one of my favorite supporting actress performances of 2019. I'm already sold. You got Edgar Wright. I love Shaun of the Dead. I love Hot Fuzz. World's End, okay. And I thought Baby Driver was really great. And, of course, Scott Pilgrim Saves the World is one of my favorite movies of all time. Him doing a psychological thriller sounds amazing. It being in the 1960s, I'm sure the soundtrack's going to be fantastic. And, of course, you add Thomasin McKenzie into the cast. I'm so ready for this film. I'm begging for a trailer. Give me a trailer for this movie. I want to see what this is. And that is why it is in my top 5 for most anticipated 2020. Going to number 4, we just got a trailer for it the other day on January 1st. And that is A Quiet Place Part 2. I loved A Quiet Place. It's one of my favorite movies of 2018. I loved John Krasinski's direction of it. I love how they integrated the silence of the film and made it super tense. Like that whole movie, I was on the edge of my seat, and every time you heard a slight noise, I was losing my mind. It ends very open-endedly, and now we are getting the second part of that. The first trailer came out. It didn't blow me away as much as like the first film did, because obviously Krasinski's not in it, but we did add Cillian Murphy. So subtract Krasinski, we get Murphy. We'll see if that balances it out. But I cannot be more excited for A Quiet Place Part 2. I'm hoping that it's remotely close to as great as Quiet Place 1 was. Going into number 3, I know literally nothing about this movie. I just know the name. I know that it's a remake of one of my favorite childhood films, and I know who's playing the lead role, and that is The Witches. Now, for me, as a child, I loved the original Witches that starred Angelica Houston. Angelica Houston, it's basically about, if it's following the plot of the original, it's about a British boy in a hotel where he stumbles upon a witch expo, in a sense, where they decide that they're going to turn all the kids into mice and then, like eat them or something like that. I can't remember. It's been a very long time since I've seen it, but the witches looked great. Practical effects for the witches. I loved this movie as a kid. It was one of my favorites. I watched it all the time. And they're remaking it this year. And instead of Angelica Houston, we are getting Anne Hathaway as the title character of the witch. That right there sold me. I cannot wait to see this film. I'm so excited. Anyone who's seen The Witches, if you're a fan of it, be on the lookout for this film. It looks like it's coming out around holiday season next year. I cannot wait, and that is why it's in my top 3. Number 2 is a guilty pleasure for me. It was probably gonna be my number 3 or 4 most anticipated of 2019 if I had actually done a list. And it's my number 2 this year, and that is Godzilla versus King Kong. Look, I love Godzilla. I've watched Godzilla since I was a kid, all the way to present day. I loved Godzilla from the first Godzilla a few years back. Godzilla King of the Monsters last year, I thought the monster aspect of it was fantastic. It was the human element that kind of fell by the wayside. Kong Skull Island I thought was all right, but it could have been so much better than what it was. Now we're getting them both together in an epic battle. It's the original is one of the most popular yet widely debated films of the Godzilla franchise, because who really wins, Japan or Godzilla or King Kong? They shot 2 different endings. Godzilla won in Japan's version. King Kong won in America's version. Who knows what they're going to do with this one, if they're going to have 2 separate endings again, or if we're going to have a full-on winner by the end of this movie, or if it's going to end in a tie. Either way, I'm sold. I can't wait to see the first trailer when it comes out, and that is why it is my number 2 of 2012. Number 1, most anticipated film of 2020. This movie came out of nowhere. I Did not even know this movie existed, and then the trailer came out, and I fell in love with this trailer. I've watched this trailer probably 10 times already, and each time I get more and more excited for it, and that is Free Guy. Ryan Reynolds is one of my favorite actors today. I've watched him ever since he was just doing TV shows with two guys going on a pizza place. And obviously Deadpool put him in the upper hemisphere. And this type of film, where he's a non-playable character in a Fortnite, Grand Theft Auto-ish type of game, and then realizes he's in a game. I think the premise is brilliant. It's got kind of like a They Live meets kind of Grand Theft Auto in a sense. And the first trailer, I loved it. I love the humor. I love the violence of it. It's going to be PG-13, so it's probably going to be not nearly as bloody, but you got Taika Waititi in it. I mean, I don't know how big of a part he's going to have in the film overall, but everything about this trailer I loved, even to them the Mariah Carey song in the beginning. Like I'm so excited for this movie. I hope to God it's even a tenth as good as I'm hoping it's going to be, and that is why it is my most anticipated film of 2020. That's the full list. Like I said, there are a lot of movies that did not make this list because I didn't want it to be 50 movies long. And there are movies that I know would have been in this top 20 if I had just known a little bit more about them. There's some indie films that are coming out this upcoming year that sound incredibly intriguing. There's some horror movies that sound incredibly intriguing. And there's some big films that are coming out that there's just not enough information yet for me to put them in my top 10. Frankly, I think the only two movies that are in this list that we don't really know a whole lot about is Last Night in Soho and The Witches. But this list is what I know right now. These are the ones I'm most excited for. I hope you guys enjoyed this list. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys feel like this list worth sharing, go ahead and hit that share button. But most importantly, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos that pop up on Sean's Movie Crusades. And of course, don't forget to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming up next, let's see. The Movie Crusaders, we're going to eventually be doing a series of the best films of the decade. Yes, we probably should have been doing it in December, but we were too busy doing the Movie Crusaders ride through the Star Wars galaxy, which we still need to do The Last Jedi and the Star Wars ranking list, which we'll get to it at some point. It's just kind of holidays happened, and yeah, stuff just happened. We'll get to them at some point. But we'll be going through, I think, about 2 to 3 years per episode, and we're going to all give our top 5 favorite films of each year, leading all the way up to our best of 2019, which will probably be around the end of January because we want to give the Movie Crusaders and myself enough time to see all the Oscar favorites. So be on the lookout for those. And of course, any other new movie reviews popping up. I know next week, 1917 finally gets a wide release. I cannot wait to see that film. Bad Boys for Life comes out, I think, the week after that. And then, of course, as I'm catching up with all these films, expect to see reviews come up. I might do another mass review deal where I'll just compile all these movies into one big video, or I'll do them singly, just like I just recently did with Spies in Disguise and Little Women. Either way, we got a lot of content coming out for you guys, so be on the lookout for that. And until next time, in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.